Hey guys, it's Clovis, and today we're going to talk about plants. There are 24 plants in the game. Plants have very strong leader abilities, strong fusion supports. They have pretty much all the qualities of a good deck, I would say. They're lacking in the department of stronger monsters, but honestly in this game it doesn't matter too much. You still have pretty decent strong monsters in the form of Spectre of Dunn, Fairy King Truesdale, Queen of Autumn Leaves. I'm going to go through the leader abilities quickly now because Queen of Autumn Leaves and Spectre of Dunn, not only are these really good fusion material, but they're also the best deck leader candidates because they're 5-star and above for the set that they have. So, extended support range, increased strength for same type friendlies, we all know the deal with that. You get 100 bonus attack and defense for all your allied plants if this is your deck leader, and that goes up to 500. So, as long as your monster is 5 stars or above, it doesn't actually matter, you get the full benefits to that. You then also get Spellbind specific enemy type and Destroy specific enemy type, and I found that Spellbind specific enemy type actually works on dragons, and this is kind of huge because dragons are like the strongest archetype in the game, and leader abilities actually override stuff like Lord of D. You know, it's not a trap card, not a spell card, so if you're against like a full-on dragon deck, or like, you know, Blue Eyes White Dragon deck, anything that's mostly dragons, there's nothing they can really do against your deck leader. So if you play aggressive with one of these decks, it's insane, and the deck innately is, you know, really ready to be aggressive. It's ready to constantly bring out damage for low summoning points, and that's the important thing. Spellbind specific enemy type, we said was for dragons. Destroy specific enemy type, I'm pretty sure it's a rock. I actually forgot this, I totally apologize, but I know there's someone in the comments, this guy named Giant Mech Forest Soldier keeps correcting me on these ones, so look out for his comment down below. I really should do my research when I do these, but I have everything else apart from that leader ability to talk about. Realistically, if you level this thing up, you're probably going to get increased strength for same type friendlies, and then extended support range, and then probably give up leveling the card because it takes a long time to get leader abilities. And to be fair, most people don't really care about them anyway. So first of all, let's talk about our highest attack plant, Fairy King Truesdale. This has a cool effect, nature effect. While it's in the face-up defense position, the power of all your plant monsters increases by 500 points. Having this effect on a monster this strong is actually not that great because it means A, you can't play it on the first turn, B, it takes 6 summoning points to play it, which also means, you know, that refers back to rule 1. And then C, it means your strongest monster, the highest attack monster you have access to, has an effect where you want to put it in defense. So I generally, most of the time, don't actually end up including this in a plant deck, even if it's really good casually, you know, if you have like 3 of these, you stick 1 face-up defense and then attack with the other 2. I think a way better way to bring out damage is with Spectre of Dunn. Queen of Autumn Leaves we'll talk about in a second. These two are similar cards, they're both female, you can fuse 2 1-stars to make them, but Spectre of Dunn is slightly more powerful, and it's also dark, which is one difference that it has with it. So, to fuse Spectre of Dunn, all you need to do is fuse a plant with a fiend. Any plant and any fiend works, so this means you can fuse a Griggle with Karibo and you'll make this, so that costs you 1 summoning level. Important thing about that is, if you consider the first turn you start with 4, you can bring out Spectre of Dunn on the first turn, you know, for 1 star, and then next turn you regenerate 3. That actually allows you to play Fairy King Truesdale on your second turn if you wish to do that. But in my opinion, the best way to play decks, like a plant deck, is actually to have a lot of low-level plants with a bunch of fiends. You can stick some female if you want to for Queen of Autumn Leaves, but Spectre of Dunn has pretty much all the qualities Queen of Autumn Leaves has, except it's slightly stronger, and, you know, I think Dark, in some cases, actually synergizes better than the Earth equip because, you know, Invigoration is not that great. Having an Earth attribute in Queen of Autumn Leaves is not that much better than Spectre of Dunn. However, Queen of Autumn Leaves, which you fuse a plant with any female to make, by the way, so you can make it with 1 star as well. Queen of Autumn Leaves itself has a support card, Green Phantom King, which when you flip it up, all Queen of Autumn Leaves are strengthened by 500 points. This is pretty cool because you can actually bring out as many of those as you want. I know you're limited to 3 Green Phantom Kings, but you can always flip this up and then, you know, play a card on top of this, like a female, to fuse it and make another one. And you can always do stuff like Darkness Approaches with Green Phantom King. And you don't even need any Queen of Autumn Leaves in your deck to play them. You just need a bunch of low-level plants and low-level females, and you can go nuts. Did I forget any here? I'm quickly just like going through any that I forgot. So yeah, between these, you know, obviously Queen of Autumn Leaves or Rose Spectre of Dunn are going to be your deck leader if you do that fusion. You know, you bring 5 out at a time and then leave them face up and skip turns as fast as possible. It's the fastest way to level up in the game. I've said that pretty much half of these videos, but yeah, you definitely want to pick one of these two if you're going to do that. Trent is not a fusion. Trent is fucking cool, but it's, you know, 5 stars, 1500 attack. It's not the best card in the game. Apart from its cool factor, there's nothing really to talk about, and that's like a lot of these other cards up here. Snakeyashi, 4 stars, 1000 attack. This really, there is no point actually having this card in your deck when you have other stuff. You know, you have stuff like Living Vase, that's 3 stars, 900 attack. You know, it's pretty much useful for everything that Snakeyashi is, except it's a star lower. One exception that actually comes up is Pumpkin, which needs an 1000 attack zombie or 1000 attack plant. The thing about zombies though is you can quite easily get 1000 attack zombie for 1, 2, or even 3 stars, so you don't actually need Snakeyashi in a deck like that ever. If you're running any fusion material with plants, you can safely use the lowest level stuff. Dark Plant is one of the 2 1-stars, so your options are Griggle, Dark Plant. They're both really weak. Griggle is lower deck cost, but Dark Plant it has a really strong effect. If you look at the fact that when it's destroyed, it puts all adjacent spaces, transforms them into Crush. That's the same effect as Crush card, which is an 80 deck cost card. It's actually a really huge effect. Considering it's so low deck cost, the good thing about stuff like Dark Plant, having a card like Dark Plant in a deck over Griggle, is if you draw the plant card and you don't draw a fiend card, you won't be able to make the fusion. So in that case, where you're forced to play the plant, then you have this really cool effect. You know, you can put Dark Plant in front of you in defense mode, and the enemy has trouble attacking over it, as opposed to you putting Griggle on the ground in front of you. It wouldn't actually do anything for you unless the enemy attacked it with a wind monster. So let's continue. Dark Plant actually, the fact that you can have 3 of these in your deck in any plant deck actually is pretty good, because you can always stick other low deck cost cards in your deck, such as like Ikaboon, which is really good on Crush terrain, because that destroys everything that's 1500 attack or lower. So you can always play Dark Plants defensively, let the opponent attack them, and then create a Crush field around you, and then play some Ikaboons around you. It probably seems like an unreasonable strategy, but it's actually quite, you know, realistic. If the enemy have like lots of high damage, they're never going to be able to reach your deck leader, and that'll give you space to do whatever the hell you want, essentially. Obviously, you're going to be sticking some forests in your deck, so you're going to be able to wipe over that terrain anyways if you really want. A lot of these lower level stuff, it's really up to you what you want to add. Like Mushroom Man has an effect, but it's only useful for Mushroom Man number 2, so in a case like Mushroom Man and Man Eating Plant that have identical stats, but Mushroom Man is higher deck cost, if you're never playing Mushroom Man number 2, obviously you can pick Man Eating Plant over it. You can even pick Firegrass over it. I mean, again, a lot of these cards you're not really going to be attacking with, but cards such as Man Eater, Yashinoki, Laughing Flower, these have pretty powerful effects over cards like Rainbow Flower or Abyss Flower that have no effects. So, talk about Man Eater, this is a fucking massive effect. This is actually ridiculous. When this card's flipped face up, it destroys all cards on forest terrain. If you think of those 2 zombie cards, like, what are they called? I think, I totally forgot what they're called. One's like Ghost Reaper or some shit, I don't know. Those cards destroy stuff on like Meadow and Sea, and they're considered like really rare cards. You have to get 3 in a row to get them. Man Eater you can get from the graveyard slots from Bakura. I'm pretty sure you can actually reincarnate to get this card. You should be able to. Unless I'm mistaken, but this is a huge effect, especially if you're playing on a forest field. If you have forest in your deck, which you're probably already going to have because you're running a plant deck, you can simply flip a forest up where the enemy's cards are, and then flip this card face up and it nukes everything on forest, while, you know, you sit your cards on crush terrain or whatever. It's actually pretty cool. It's even a reset button. If you're considered like the whole field is forest and you're close to the opponent, if you have one of these face down, you can flip it face up, nuke the entire field, and then play a card and attack your opponent directly. It's a pretty good reset button at that point. So yeah, definitely stick some Man Eaters in your deck. Great fusion material plus, you know, awesome effect that you're probably going to be using quite a lot in a plant deck. Yashinoki, not as good an effect, but it's a 100% reliable effect, so you don't need to ever really think about when you're using this. The only situation where gaining life points is worse is if your enemy has Ryoku and they're going to take more away and get more power at it. But I mean, the difference between the enemy buffing something with 2000 attack for Ryoku and 250 is like pretty negligible. You're probably going to be curse breakering that anyway. So, in the context of this card, if you ever have to, you know, use this card as an effect card, you get 500 free life points. Doing that is, you know, better than playing Man-Eating Plant or Mushroom Plant. So, yeah. I just realized Mushroom Man should be 19 deck cost, but it's 18. They fucked up there. Anyways, continuing on, Laughing Flower is actually mind-blowing. You guys are probably going to be surprised about this effect. This actually gains control of the opposing card when it's face up in battle. So what you do with this is you attack into the enemy monster, take control of that monster, and then you can do whatever the hell you want with it. I haven't really gone through mind control in detail in the video, but obviously the main thing is you attacking with it, but also you can just put that monster on crush to kill it. You can actually play something on top of it to destroy it, or so the enemy doesn't get it back. And on top of that, you can actually use it as your own fusion material. You can always take the opponent's card and then, you know, play something on top of it, make it a fusion, send all that material to your graveyard, and if you fuse something on top of it, it's a different monster. It won't gain, you know, it won't actually go back to the opponent. These cards aren't as good defensive because at the end of the turn it goes back to yours. I don't think you have control over the card anymore, but during your turn, when you attack with this, it allows you to attack with the enemy cards because they haven't moved anymore. So yeah, between Laughing Flower and Man Eater, and even Yashinoki is a pretty good effect, these cards, like the plants, actually have really good effects, especially the low level ones. You don't even need to add like excess amount of plants. You probably only need like 12 to 15 plants and then like the rest fiends before you start adding your spells and traps. And so, you know, you may as well add in the most powerful effect monsters you've got. They're all pretty low deck costs, so yeah. Arlownay, I'll stop and talk about this briefly because this is a female card as well, so you can always fuse Arlownay with itself to make Queen of Autumn Leaves. It is 3 stars, so it's a bit higher than 2 stars, but the fact it's female does have, you know, value to it. But don't forget, we always have like really good options for females. You can always add like Magician of Faith in any female like fusion deck, because that's 1 star, so it's really good for fusions. But if you draw it, you can always use that to revive your own spells and traps, even if it's just like a trap card or an equip. It's really, really good. So Arlownay, it's up to you guys. This card actually has the same model as Spectre of Dunn, but it's, yeah, not the exact same card. It's a bit weaker, so yeah. Arlownay, totally up to you guys if you want to include it. I personally recommend just including other plants and then having like level 1 females, because, you know, if you do that, it lets you cycle through your deck faster. The only advantage of having 3 Arlownay over other cards is that, yeah, you can fuse it with itself. So if you draw 3 Arlownay instead of 3 female, you can still make the fusion. Ancient Tree of Enlightenment. This is extremely powerful card, and it's probably a... you have the option to use it. You don't have to use it, you know, but if you aren't using traps in your deck, you can use Ancient Tree of Enlightenment for free. It's actually a really good card. I did mention 3 stars aren't as good for fusion as 2 or 1, but come on, guys. This is... You're definitely going to be playing this face-up defense, because this disabled all trap cards, so... Instead of playing Royal Decree, sticking that in your deck for 80 deck cost, you can just play Ancient Tree of Enlightenment, face-up defense, and as long as you don't have trap cards, you don't have to worry about any of the enemy ones triggering unless they destroy this card. And, you know, even though I talked about the stats of level 3 stars usually not mattering, this actually really does matter because 1500 defense, considering you're going to be playing it in face-up defense, for 3 stars is actually very good, and if you're playing like a crush strategy, the attack is low enough, even with like your 500 attack bonus from your deck leader, the attack is low enough to be on crush while the defense is high enough for anything other than immortals to not kill it on crush. So it's a really good like defensive card. Just in general, you can have this to help defend you while the rest of your like Spectre of Duns play aggressively. Green Phantom King, mentioned before, also has a very high defense value. These are the same deck costs actually, I only just noticed that. Very similar stats. 3 summoning level, but yeah, Green Phantom King is to power up the Queen of Autumn Leaves, so yeah. Here you've got other 3 levels cards, totally up to you which ones you want to use, but obviously you would use Darkworld Thorns or Barrel Lily over Living Vase. Darkworld Thorns is an interesting fusion. You can actually fuse Fungi of the Musk with itself. Fungi of the Musk and a Fiend will make Darkworld Thorns, but we'll talk a little bit about that. I'm actually going to go up to the Fiends in a second, talk about some material there. I did go, if you want to look back at the Fiends video, that's like 50 minutes long, and go through the low level stuff there, that'll give you a better idea of what fusions make what fusions, so yeah. Woodland Sprite is absurdly overpowered. This card you can't actually get in the game without Destiny Draw. That's the only way you'll ever get this card in the game. I have it because I've entered in a cheat that gives me all the cards. Other than that, you can't reincarnate, you can't 3 in a row. The only like theoretical way to get cards like this would be some method of save corruption, but no one's ever been able to pull that off. The only way to do it is Destiny Draw, and if you want to do that, look in the description and there'll be a video on how to, like the conditions required for Destiny drawing Woodland Sprite and Arsenal Bug. If it's not there, ask me and I'll put it in the description because I would have forgot. But yeah, this card is absurdly overpowered. 2100 attack for 3 stars, and power increases by 2500 points in battles against Fiend monsters. For a brief explanation on how to do this, obviously it's way more complex than this, so you definitely want to check out the video. You basically need to sandbag for a Destiny draw, so your life points basically need to be lower than 1000, and the enemy need 3 face-up Fiends between 3000 and 4000 attack, relatively close to your deck leader, with one of them, the most powerful one, directly threatening an attack to your deck leader. It's a pretty confusing summoning condition, so definitely watch that video if you want to summon this. Bean Soldier is actually a fusion as well. Any warrior and any plant will make this fusion, which is really cool actually, because even though it's not the strongest card in the game, it's a good card for crush terrain, so if you have no leader abilities whatsoever, you can always make those fusions, and you have this 1400 attack card, which is very, very good on crush terrain. That's very, very handy in any duel that has crush, whether it's Shardy or even Bakura himself. And, you know, Snakeyashi, Trent, we already talked about these cards, so let's, I want to first, like, quickly mention Spectre of Dunn again, because I did mention before, right, you have fusions with plants and fiends, and Spectre of Dunn is a dark, and it's also a female, so this means you can use Dark Energy and Malevolent Nuzzler on this card, as well as being able to use both of those cards on your fiend. On the contrary, Queen of Autumn Leaves, it doesn't require a fiend to play, so you can just stick all plants in your deck. So if your deck is mostly based around Queen of Autumn Leaves, you can include a lot of non-fiend stuff, whereas if your deck is based around Spectre of Dunn, you can include more like Malevolent Nuzzler, Dark Energy, more fiend cards, and you know, you can always mix, match, hybridize the decks if you guys want. I like to keep things to one theme, but obviously you want synergy throughout the deck. So the point I'm trying to get at is Malevolent Nuzzler, being able to stick that in a deck with Spectre of Dunn, if you're mostly playing that, means you have access to, you know, all the female equipped cards, so up to 9 cards, in addition to being able to use the Malevolent Nuzzlers on your fiends if you ever draw the fiend cards and you don't draw the females. Whereas Queen of Autumn Leaves, the female cards, you can't really do that with it, you know. If you're not having any fiends in your deck, you'll only be able to use, like, you can still use Malevolent Nuzzler on this, but you may as well use Vile Germs at that point, so I just wanted to highlight the difference of the element there, because it does come up. Spectre of Dunn is dark. You can stick Dark Energy on your fiends, you can stick Malevolent Nuzzler on your fiends and your females. So yeah, Spectre of Dunn, if you run a deck like that, maybe chuck in some Dark Energies and Malevolent Nuzzlers. That way you're able to stick those equips on pretty much everything you play. First of all, of course, the forest terrain is the terrain which plants are strong in, so probably want to stick 3 of these in your deck. Every time I make a deck, I always stick 3 terrain cards in it. Unless you have options of 2, then, you know, you can stick 2 and 2, but I just think 3 forest is fine. Forest is a really big advantage, or sorry, any terrain in this game, for that matter, that, you know, you're supported on is a huge advantage to any deck, so you definitely want to do that, especially if you don't have any cards that have a way, like a means of putting forest out in the field. Don't forget, we mentioned the Man Eater, which actually just destroys everything on forest, so it actually makes even more sense than most other decks that already make sense to have their terrain card in the deck. You definitely want to have some forest in your deck so you can use that Man Eater combo, as well as obviously, you know, you lay down the field for you to trample over, so yeah. Let's go to the equip cards briefly. These guys have one of those 600 attack and defense power up, Reign of Mercy. Increase the attack and defense of all plants on the field by 600 points. Be very careful about using this if you're running stuff on Crush. Otherwise, go nuts. This is a good way to, you know, if you have nothing in your hand that you can play, but you've already played some plants, you can just dump some stuff and play this. Obviously, you want your deck to synergize enough to not have to do that, but these support cards are always fine. You know, if you don't want to use them, you can always dump these in favor of other stuff. This is just kind of a way to meet the like 40 card quota for your deck, while not putting in anything that necessarily bricks. You can always dump these in favor of other cards, or use them when you have to. One way or the other, it's fine. It's a low deck cost anyway, so you can always afford to stick these in your deck, no problem. Another one I'll mention there is the Yellow Luster Shield. It's not plant specific, it works on any defensive strategy, but if you're running stuff like Ancient Tree of Enlightenment, this is really good, because you have that face-up defense mode, just makes it really hard to kill. But even if you're playing like Fairy King Truesdale and just stick that up in defense, you can always put some Yellow Luster Shield, and you know, that will make that card pretty much immortal, so you have this really hard to kill defense mode dude that's powering up all your stuff, so that's always something worth mentioning. So, Vile Germs, this is your plant-specific equip card. Plants don't have any other equips than Vile Germs, so you kind of have to use your imagination. This will give 500 to any plant you have, so definitely stick 3 of these in your deck. Unless, of course, you're running a strategy I mentioned before, like Spectre of Dunn, where if you're running a lot of Fiends and the only fusions are going to make a female, you can stick stuff like Malevolent Nuzzler and Dark Energy in there. Otherwise, you can still stick 3 of these in there, because all your plants is compatible with all your plants, but this is your only plant equip, so after this you gotta like start using elemental equips, which all the plant cards are earth, except like a few dark ones, and those Invigoration and Dark Energy only give 300 points of attack, so not only did I mention before the best 2 strategies are, you know, bringing out those 2 powerful, the Spectre of Dunn and the Queen of Autumn Leaves for 1 star, they're also female cards, so that means you have access to Electro Whip, Cyber Shield, and of course, as I mentioned plenty of times before, Malevolent Nuzzler. So realistically, you probably want like 3 Vile Germs, maybe even 3 Malevolent Nuzzler in a deck. There's no reason to put Cyber Shield or Electro Whip over Malevolent Nuzzler in a deck, because Malevolent Nuzzler works on everything that Cyber Shield Electro Whip does, except it also works on Fiends. So it synergizes with the fusion material that you'll be including in your deck to make Spectre of Dunn. So yeah, don't forget guys, if you're gonna put Invigoration in your deck, you may as well just put in Megamorph. It gives the same damage, 300 attack, 300 defense, but Megamorph works on literally every single monster card in the game. Invigoration does not, it only works on Earth, so if you're going to stick 3 of these in your deck, you may as well stick Megamorph in, because it's the same deck cost. You could also argue that for Dark Energy. You can stick 3 Megamorph in place of the 3 Dark Energies, but remember that'll boost your deck cost up by 15, which, you know, doesn't matter too many of the time, but sometimes, like if you're trying to verse like the lower deck cost stuff, that stuff does add up, you know, if you're adding a bunch of different strategies, so yeah. Anyways guys, I'm probably going to stop the video there. I don't really know what else there is to talk about. I've already went through all the monsters and talked about some of the equip synergy and the fusion synergy, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.